Good afternoon. Welcome to another video on Luderco Arms channel. Today we're going to look at, talk about, and field strip this Daewoo Precision Industries DR-200 rifle. So what this is the semi-automatic civilian version of the Korean Army's K2 rifle. It's a little bit different back here. We'll get to that. So basically, it's a 5.56 rifle. It uses standard Stanag mags. And this is the rifle that the average soldier in the Korean Army carries. And so the story on this thing is obviously the Korean War. We supplied the South Koreans with tons and tons of M1 carbines and M2 carbines and M1 Garands. And they used them, and they kept on using them. And then when Vietnam came around, they sent contingencies of soldiers to Vietnam to fight with us. And we supplied them with M16A1s. And consequently, South Korea acquired a license from Colt to manufacture their own M16A1s. And this lasted for a while, but their license was going to run out, and it was just going to cost them too much money. And like most countries, they wanted their own indigenous rifle. So in 1972, they started doing research and development on what would end up being the K2 rifle. So they worked on it, developed it. It's kind of a combination of a bunch of different rifles. It uses the fire control group of M16. It has an M16-esque bolt carrier. It's got the gas system from an AKM. It's just a whole different breed by itself. It has a folding stock, which I'll show you in a picture here. That's a little different than what I got on here, but we'll get to that part anyways. So 1985, they finished R&D, finished testing, and it was adopted by the Republic of Korea Army. And in the late 80s, Daewoo made small numbers of these in a semi-auto configuration. It was a select fire rifle for the Army, and started importing them into the United States to lucky people that were smart enough to buy one at the time. And 1989, the import ban caused Daewoo a whole lot of headaches, because all of a sudden they had to get rid of all of the cool parts of the rifle and neuter it per the 89 ban, which is why you have on these rifles things like a flash hider that has no slots and has been pinned and welded to the barrel, because they had to get rid of the flash hider because that was a part that freedom-hating politicians were scared of. They also had to do the most unfortunate thing in the world, which is add the ugliest stock known to man. And so what they had to do is they milled off a bunch. They basically made a new receiver. The original K1 or K2s, the folding stock mechanism was actually milled into the end of the receiver. Well, they couldn't have a folding stock anymore because freedom-hating politicians are scared of stocks that fold. And so they had to put this ugly monstrosity on there. Disgusting. To comply. So basically, in order to comply with the 89 import ban, they configured an entire new lower casting without the folding stock, and then put this ugly beast of a monstrosity on it in order to be able to import it. And then just a few short years later, 1994, Clinton assault weapons ban. So what did Daewoo do? And you can't blame them. Daewoo said, well, fuck you guys, we're out. We're not playing these games anymore. And they were gone. And so that's there weren't very many of these that actually made it to the United States. They were imported by a couple of different companies. Kimber imported this one. B West imported some, and I think there's another company. There's not a whole lot of them around, which is why a lot of people have never seen one before. The reason that I own this one is because I was stationed in Korea circa 1995, 1996. At that time, those of us in the American Army were issued M16A2s, 20-inch barrel, fixed stock, and our counterparts in the South Korean Army had these K2s with the folding stocks, and we were pretty damn jealous. And I always thought, you know, it'd be cool to have one of those. And years and years later, I came across this one. It was still in its thumbhole stock version at the time, and because I wanted it to have the one part that we were all so jealous of when I was in the Army, there's a website company called Stormworks, STORMWERKZ, and this fella makes this adapter to go on here, and it kind of makes it look right again. Then you've got to rig up you've got to take an M16 or an FAL. This came off of an FAL. This is an FAL hand pistol grip that I reworked so that it would fit on here. And then this is a I believe a Ace folding stock. So now my K2, now it's not the right stock because they had a plastic, well, by this time in the video I'm sure I've already flashed a picture of a real K2 up and shown you what stock looks like, but this is as close as I could get. One of these days when I have time, I will mill that thing off and try to locate a flash hider close to the original that the Koreans used. But I may have to make that myself, so we'll see. So that's basically the story of the Daewoos and how they got here and why I have one. So now let's open this thing up. We'll field strip it and kind of take a look at what's going on inside here so that you'll have a better understanding of this gun. Let me get the camera kind of set up here. It doesn't want to cooperate today. Okay, field stripping this is pretty easy. So I'm going to fold my stock back out. So let's look at a rifle a little bit first. You've got your gas system. Right here you've got an adjustable gas block. This was so that they could use rifle grenades. Push the little button in and it turns. The K2 would have a flash hider here with a couple of compensator holes added in. Oh my god. Y'all hold on a minute. One of these days I'm gonna get a better setup for doing this. But it would have a couple of compensator holes to prevent muzzle flip. They have I really like this sling swivel that's built into the barrel. Very convenient, works very well. Clamshell handguards over the gas system. It's a long stroke gas piston in here off of an AKM, basically. Not directly, but you get what I'm saying. So fire controls are basic AR, except on an AR where you would press down on the bottom of this to catch the bolt. On this one, it works the same way to release the bolt. You press the top, but you pull the top out to catch the bolt. So See if I can do this without knocking everything down. So you just hold out on that, and then, so your magazine release will be familiar to anybody who's ever fired an AR. It's right there. It just presses in. Magazines pop out real nice. Now your charging handle is different because you've got a side charger. It's got a knob here, and it just charges. And this rifle does lock open on an empty mag, and you can drop the mag, replace it, hit your release, and you're back in action. If you've ever used an AR, you'll be familiar with it. Now the safety is a little different. It's a full 180, so right now it's on semi, and it's got to go all the way around to safe. So if it's on safe and you want to take it and put it into action, you've got to push this all the way around 180 degrees. So to field strip this, it's very simple. You've got this plunger button here. Now you see this little tab on it? Let's see if I can get this where you can see it. So you got this tab here, and in the middle of it is a little, like an extra switch. So right now you can't press it all the way in. You got to take and flip this little piece back like that, and then you can push that forward and it opens up. So if you look down here, you'll see all of these, your hammer, your trigger, springs, those are all interchangeable with AR-15 stuff. So if you have one of these and you want a better trigger, swap it right out. Got your bolt hold open, got your ejector here, it's spring loaded. So once you got it open, now there is a just like an AR, you've got a captured pin right here at the front that you can push out and pull the two halves apart. So that's pretty much it for the bottom half, unless you want to take your fire control group apart, but that's not really part of field stripping. So once that's off, then you pull this back. It's got your captured recoil spring, and then you can take your charging handle, run it back to there, and when you get to the back, then you can pull it out of its hole, and then you can pull your gas piston and your bolt carrier and bolt, and that is it. So you can see here we've got an AKM style long stroke gas piston, and then your little short bolt carrier basically looks like the front of an AR bolt carrier. You've got the cam pin, all that good stuff, just like an AR. And then that piece will further strip down, much like an AR. You can pull your little cotter pin out, this one's pretty tight. Pull your cotter pin out, drop your firing pin, pull your cam, and there we go. Now these parts are based on an M16, but these parts are not interchangeable. Your bolt and bolt carrier, firing pin, all that, none of that's interchangeable. Now these fire control parts are, but not these parts. So clean everything up, swab out your barrel and your gas system, and then you're going to go to put it back together, and it's just like an AR. You got to get everything in there and get it all lined up. Drop your firing pin back in like so. Put your little cotter pin back in, and sometimes this cotter pin on mine is a real pain in the butt. It does not like to get back in. Nope. So we'll have to play with it a little bit, but don't know why this thing is always such a pain in the behind, but it is. There we go. Alright. Now to reassemble this, you're going to take your cast piston and start it back in there with the tab for the bolt carrier hanging down. Take your bolt carrier, you want your bolt forward, not back, forward, just like with an AR. And you see this cutout here, fits on there, just like so, and then slide it all in there. And this piece goes inside of the gas piston. So once you get all that in there, before you push it all the way forward, you want to get it right here where you can get your pin back in, which I forgot to do, of course. Alright, so you line your hole back up, slide your bolt handle back in. Now, if you're smart, you'll do that before and not after. Now we can pin this back together using our captured pin. And again, the one on this rifle is really stiff. Give it a little tappy tap tap. Come on. This thing is trying to embarrass me, and it's accomplishing it. Normally you don't have, there we go. Normally you don't have this much trouble. But this one has been sitting in the safe for a long time. Alright, so you got the pin back in. And now you just push your button back, just like before. And voila, you are done. Function check, good to go. Alright, so now that I'm done embarrassing myself with the field strip, sometimes things just don't want to work out. Let's take a look at the markings on this thing real quick while we've got it out. So right here you've got the DR-200 223 caliber and serial number and made in Korea. And also you've got up here you've got Daewoo Precision Industries with the little Daewoo logo, safe and semi. And on the opposite side, on the magazine well, let me move this so you can see, you've got the importer, which in this case was Kimber in Clackamas, Oregon. So shooting this, it shoots fine. It recoils a tad more than an AR, probably due to the gas system that's on it. Now one thing about this though, these were 1 in 12 rifling, so they don't really like the 62 grain SS-109. They like the 55 grain M193, I believe it is. This particular rifle is really weird because if you load this thing with 62 grain, it will keyhole. It'll still hit the target, but it'll keyhole. But you put 55 grain in it, it shoots okay. It's not a sniper rifle, and it's maybe a 2 MOA, so it's good enough for what it was intended for. My understanding is that the South Koreans do have some of these set up as DMRs. I would imagine they go through and find the most accurate ones. And of course this one's not perfect because it's clodged together, trying to get as close as I could to the original with the good old Clinton band. But that is the Daewoo DR-200. Unless you've served in Korea, you may not have ever seen one of these or heard of one. But there it is. So I appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a good one.